son. Where'd you find this?
Buckle up, buttercups. It's time to get down to business. Oh, yeah. It's the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Totally legit.
All right. It's a Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. We're back again, and today we've got musical artists Taskkill, Daniel, Chris, and Ashton. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
How are you guys doing today?
Delicious.
Love that.
Doing great. How are you doing, James?
I'm living it and loving it. We were just getting the audio stuff together, and we were kind of listening through the new song Choke, which we'll play for everybody here in a moment. But I love how weird it is. And I remember when you guys were telling me about doing this whole thing, doing this remote, like, cyber metal project. You expressed how weird it was going to be, and you did not disappoint. I love weird music. Weird music to me is the music that stands out. Is different.
Same.
It's not like everything that you're hearing, and especially in metal, I find like this subgenre takes over, and then everything kind of sounds exactly like that for a while. And the bands that don't do those things are the bands that stick out. Again, in my opinion. But I'm really excited that you guys are doing, like, it's coming to fruition. This, like, thing you planted it. I've been cultivating. Why don't you guys quickly introduce yourselves and then tell me about what started, like, what was the impetus for you guys doing this project?
Yeah, you guys go ahead.
So I'm Daniel, and I play guitar and the keys and bass and do all of our production stuff. About 4 years ago, I was in another band with Ashton here, and we were in a band called Vas Vide. And as that band ended, I was just kind of thinking about, a new direction I wanted to try. I've always been really into metal music, and Ashton and I used to have a project with Chris called Cuddles back in the day when we lived in Oklahoma.
Love that.
So yeah, it was our like grindcore metalcore band, and I kind of wanted to go more in that direction, but a little more experimental. And I was just kind of thinking about it, and so I just kind of tossed around the idea with Chris and Ashton, and they were both down for it, and so we agreed to start recording remotely because this was back in like 2020, and
in the dark times. Yes.
Happened, yeah. But yeah, I'll pass it off to Chris.
Yeah, he reached out to me. I remember when Cuddles broke up, I was crushed. It was my first like serious band, and things didn't work out. But so when Daniel said, "Hey, do you want to try this?" It was an immediate yes. And I'm the vocalist. Daniel does like you mentioned, all the production stuff, mixing and all of that. And then he passes it off to me, and then we do mastering in-house. We do everything in-house. We're a very do-it-yourself project. Everything that you see on social media, everything that you hear is through all three of us. And I couldn't be prouder of that. The fact that we do it. And, we even kicked around the idea of, outsourcing mixing, outsourcing mastering, things like that. And then I think what we ultimately landed on was like, whatever it sounds like, it's going to be us. We don't let anybody else control any of that. I think that that's kind of I don't want to say a benchmark, but a kind of like a sticking point to all of this is that whatever happens, it's all three of us doing it. And I think that's the thing I'm proud of the most. So for better or worse, it's just us. So
Definitely. And again, Ashton here playing drums. Hey. As far as being proud, and this is no comparison, I'd like way back, I probably 4th grade is the first time I ever heard Primus. I was like, it just blew my mind. I had never heard anything. I was like listening to the Scorpions and like like Tupac at the time or whatever, Spice Girls. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but
that first record was great.
I always thought it was so cool, and then there was just nothing like that out there anymore. And then for years, I heard the same kind of shit over and over again. And when Daniel reached out to me, he's like, "Let's do a record, and let's do exactly what we want to do, and have fun, and make the songs fun to play live." And just sticking true to that, I was like, "Fuck yeah, that sounds great." And then, like, within a day's time, I heard the lead singer of Black Tongue talking about their album, and he was like, if you're not writing an album that's your favorite album at that time, you're wasting your time. So I was like, okay, I'm convinced. We got to dive into this. And I think that's stayed true the entire time for me. It's been amazing, and I'm super, super excited about the release today.
No, that's exactly it. Like, exactly how you described it, Ashton. We went into it with no rules and no expectations other than just, it wasn't like, let's start a metal band. It was more just like, let's just write the shit that we think is cool, and we don't have to follow any rules either. Like, we don't have to have hooky choruses or like we just, that was never a thought in my mind the entire time I was writing. It was just, and I think that's probably true for all three of us. It was just like, what do I want to hear? What do I think is cool? And luckily, all three of us agree on what we think is cool, so it worked out well. But yeah, 4 years later, after having to teach ourselves how to mix and record and do all this, since we decided to do it ourselves, 4 years later, we're finally putting this shit out. So thank you for having us on, and just a place to let people know that.
No, dude, thanks for coming on here again. Like, I was super excited to see you guys close the gap, like close the loop. I love I love doing these things because you take something that's in your head and is nothing, and over time you slowly turn it into something tangible. And there's just something super fun about that to me. That's why I continue to do it, and it's why I feel like most people probably do it. And 4 years, sometimes this shit takes time.
Yeah.
You guys aren't in the same physical space, right?
No.
You're scattered all over. Yeah, right. This is, if you guys were in a cabin for 2 or 3 months, like, whatever, you could write and record a whole record. Fuck it. But who has the time to spend 2 or 3 months in a cabin with in a recording studio, an isolated recording studio? So, I just think doing it yourself and keeping all those things in house, no one's gonna bring your project to life like you. And if it takes time, if you have to re-record shit, so fucking be it. There are no rules. Like, when you guys, were you guys at any point in the same physical location, or it was always like, we're going to be geographically spread super far apart?
No, we there was I'm in Norman, Oklahoma. It's about 20 minutes south of Oklahoma City. Daniel is now in Tampa Bay, Florida, and Ashton is in the Springs in Colorado.
Gotcha.
There was a time, I think it was not this past April, but the April prior to that. There's a huge music festival that happens in my town called the Norman Music Festival, and they've had all kinds of incredible acts. Like, I know the OC's played here, I know Cloud Nothing's played here, Always played here. A lot of like kind of indie-ish sort of bands. But anyways, it was a huge festival, and I was like, Daniel, Ashton, what we should do, because we were and this is usually what it's been like in the recording process, you should come help me record vocals, because if I'm doing vocals by myself, it takes me forever. I don't necessarily really know what sounds good, but like, what it was is we'd made a plan to come here. Daniel brought all of his gear, his Mac that he records everything on, and I just recorded directly into the Mac, and we spent about 2 days. I think we got about three and a half songs done, and by the end of that, I was just like,
toast.
I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, hey guys, I'm really glad you came up, and all this, and so that was the only time that we spent together doing that. And honestly, when we go to record again, I would really like to plan on doing that, because it saved us a lot of time. Like, that was a really big push forward in getting a lot of the stuff done, because then the onus was on Daniel to just mix real.
Yeah.
You know?
Now it's his problem.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because like everything in this band is like, okay, well, I did this. now it's there. It's in their hands, you know, and it's just up until the next thing comes along that it's back in your hands. So.
Well, and the nice part now is, like, now we know what we're doing, and we have everything we need to get a production done. And so, you know, if we decide to go another round and do another album after all of the songs for this one is out, then I think we can knock it out a lot more quickly, because we're familiar with our own writing process now, and you know, the mixing and production side as well. And now, you know, Chris and Ashton are learning a lot about the social media side of it, which I've just completely handed off to them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So, and you know, and they're getting great at it. And so it's a whole, we each have our jobs, you know, and now I think we're a pretty well-oiled machine at this point. And so I'm excited to go into this second single, just to see how much better, how much further we can take it, you know. And we've got 3 more after this one, too. So.
Yep.
So from like a production side or production standpoint, you guys had to know like a little. You have been in bands that have recorded before, so like there was some kind of knowledge of that. But like, what else? Like, what weren't you expecting to be a bigger problem as it was?
So, you know, the whole time I was in, like, Vos Vitae and projects before that, and including Cuddles with these guys, like, I just kind of was always under the assumption that I would need somebody else to do that part to like make it sound good, and like I would need a studio and need somebody else's gear and expertise. But these days, you know, technology's come so far, and there's so many options out there to do it yourself at home. Like it really doesn't take much. Like I went and got a Mac Mini, you know, so the cheapest like computer I could edit on. Chris helped me to get Ableton just so I'd have a DAW to work within. And we also got just a little interface for, you know, a single microphone plug-in and like a DI box. And like that's all you need to get going. And then, you know, I use Slate Digital subscription. So that's where I get all my EQs and compressors and all that stuff. And then basically from there, you know, I figured out it's with, you know, YouTube and everything these days, you can teach yourself anything.
Literally anything. That's what I was going to say. Even like niche shit, you can be like, how do I get my drums to sound like this iconic sound using Slate plugins? Exactly. Some motherfucker on YouTube has made that video.
It's just figuring out the terminology. Like, sorry if I cut out there. Figuring out what to look up.
Yeah.
Because like you have it in your head, you're like, I want this sound. I know what I'm looking for, and I know what effect I want to do. But like, what do they call it? So half the searching for me is just figuring out the right word to even look up.
Yeah.
You know? And then you always find it. And then, but after 4 years of that, like now you build kind of like a pace, like your own kind of cadence, workflow, I guess would be the best word. So I guess I had to break free of that notion that I had to be dependent on someone else to, you know, have a final product. And that included you, James, because you mastered Vos Vitae stuff. That's why I pulled you in to this when we started it, you know, because we were going to record with Chris's friend and then have him mix, and then I was going to send you the songs for mastering. And but yeah, then, you know, Chris was just like, what if we just did it ourselves? And at first I thought that was a crazy idea, but Now that we've done it, I'm stoked on it, because now we have the skill set.
Yeah,
that we didn't have before.
Ultimately, that's the thing. Like, and there's so many people. I'm glad that you have run with that, because I feel like there's so many people that I've told, like, explained the technical aspects of recording shit, and they just they don't want to. They're too afraid. And it's like, it's really not that hard once you dig in. If you're really trying to record audio, and you just got to figure this shit out. Like, every recording is going to sound bad. It's not going to sound as good as the next one. Every time you're working on the next one, it's like, oh man, that last one sucks compared to this one. And then it's just, that's forever until we're dead. That's never going to be different. And you figure out along the way how to get the things that you want sounding the way that you want. Like, that's the point. This is something that I heard a lot in all the spaces where audio was discussed, is like, just listen. You want to figure out how to do something with mixing, just listen. Listen, experiment, you'll figure it out. You just start twisting the knobs, and then you get crazy sound, and you're like, oh, that's how they get that sound. Oh, okay, crazy.
Yeah.
That's, that's, we don't have to have $1 million studio to twist knobs. We can do this from our fucking bedrooms in our underwear, using laptops. So I don't know. It's just
have a vision. Yeah.
Well, that is part of it. Yes, is having a vision, but also just like the experimentation for the sake of experimentation. Like, and especially like the more you do this, you'll get like stuck in ways of like, well, this is how I mix. This is how I do shit. And it's important sometimes to just be like, well, what if I didn't do it that way? What if I did it a completely different way? What if I thought about how I'm arranging this slightly different? And I guess another thing about your music too is that it's not like there are melodic components to it. Maybe there isn't like a verse chorus kind of structure to it, but there are like chorus like parts, verse like parts. It's got a little more dynamics than just like typical metal, and that when you have music that has more dynamics, that you can do a lot more interesting shit recording wise. But
yeah, the song that we released today is definitely the closest to like a more normal song structure, I'd say.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of verse chorus outro kind of thing, and then the actual outro. But generally speaking, like in the other songs, it's just kind of we almost have like an avant-garde kind of approach a little bit, but in a way that where it still has to flow and make sense, though. Like we're not playing shit just to make sounds. Like
mashing parts together.
Yeah. So I wouldn't, like I don't identify with like the like noisecore kind of stuff. It's like there are patterns, there is purposeful structure there. It's just. As I was writing personally, and I'll let Chris and Ashton speak to this after, but like for me, it was whatever felt normal. As I was like writing a riff or something, I would then try to make like a left-hand turn, like a sharp turn, just like this feels too comfortable. What if I do this instead? And yeah, it almost makes me cringe a little bit because it feels off, but like. Then you keep doing it and you build on top of that.
Fucking embrace the cringe, man.
Something.
Embrace the cringe.
Yeah. No, I with this, like it was just, let's get weird,
Yeah.
And then once everyone has chimed in, though, it turns into its own thing after a while. And I think that's why the three of us kind of got so obsessed with it and have continued working on it for this long.
I have to step in because of the cringe. Like, that just hit home so hard for me during my writing process. Like, At the first 3 songs I tried to write to, I was just getting pissed at myself. Like, this is the worst thing that's ever been written. And then I was like, power through it anyway. And I would overemphasize things, and I would try to make fun of myself by writing, if that makes sense. I don't know. I would just do things like, oh, this is what you do because you're an idiot. And then, like, after I did that, like, 15 to 20 times, I was like, now that's something I can be happy with. But I had to go through, like, the anger and, like, the embarrassment and, like, nobody's ever going to love you and, like, all that shit, you know?
Yeah, it's like an essential part.
Past that, yeah.
It's an essential part of the process.
It's funny that you bring that up, and I would like to jump back into this later, but several months ago, you James, and Daniel and I got on a call, and we were telling you, like, well, look, we're wrapping up, our final mixes and final masters and stuff like that, and we're about to get into social media. And you're like, dude, you're gonna fucking hate it. Like, I remember, like, I will never forget you telling me this, but you're gonna fucking hate it. It's gonna be cringe. You're gonna, like, hate recording yourself and, like, hitting the upload button on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And I just want to say that you couldn't have been more correct.
Yeah,
I fucking hated it. I hated it, but now it's like. Now we've gotten into, like, kind of a flow with our social media, and I have to give a shout out specifically to Ashton, because I come up with ideas like maybe once a week, maybe once every other week now, and like, oh, okay, I think this is a good idea, and like, well, Daniel kind of did a really good job of establishing a rule. Like, one of the reasons we took so long to release our first single, Vacant Home, was we wanted to have about 30 to 45 days of content ready to go. And so that we had something to post, for weeks on end. And I think the reason I bring that up is because I think that speaks well to our preparedness and managing our own expectations. Which has been a pretty important process in all of this all along. We tend to do what's most realistic, and like, if we have like a crazy idea, then we all like riff off of each other, and there's really good chemistry between the three of us when it comes to making music. So overall, all of like the lyric writing, like, I hadn't done it in years. I was like, dude, my lyrics suck, like, probably, but I guess we'll keep going, and just sort of like pushing that voice to the side for a little while and letting the appropriate side of whatever is the right side of the brain. I don't know if it's the left or the right with this creative part, but just listening to that more. And I couldn't have asked, for 2 other guys that just encourage each other and me, and it's been awesome. Like, it's been at a minimum, it's just been fucking fun. It's been a lot of fun. So,
well, that's what this shit is. And when we say fun, we don't mean fun all the time.
No,
everything can't be fun all the time.
No,
and in order to have more fun, you have to put in a little more work. This shit is like a garden.
Yeah.
And if you plant a seed and you consistently water it, over time, you're just one of the only people left doing it. That's just how this shit works with any of these artistic paths that you could follow as a digital creator today. It's really just consistency over time. And it sucks. I fucking hate managing socials, and like I get like strangely depressed when I fuck up my routine, but it's because it's my routine. I just make it a part of my routine. All right, if I'm going to be doing these things, I should be posting about it. So I'm glad you pushed through, because I think, and everybody really, like, even people who love to post, at some level, they're like strangely a slave to it, and there is some resentment, but it's not to say they're going to stop doing it.
Man, that's a good point. I've got a friend that I met through production school. Over COVID, I went to an online production school, and one of my mentors there has also been pretty instrumental in like talking to me about social media. Like, that's his shit, right? Shout outs to Lumberjack. He's a dubstep producer, EDM DJ, just an all around great guy, and I love him to death. And like, talked to him the other night, and he's still, I mean, he's the fucking king of it. Like, he's the king of like bait engagement. Like, he knows how to do that shit, right? And even the other night, he's like, I need to get back on the social media grind. I've been missing a couple of posts here and there, and it's like got me feeling some type of way. And I'm like, damn, you know, like you're the one that I think about, like, that is really, really good at this shit. And you know, so I think you're right. I think you're exactly right that at some point we will hit like some kind of wall, but we tend to brute force everything and just work through it. So yeah, it'll happen, but I have really high confidence that we'll figure it out. So,
well, you figure out what's right for you. And, you know, it's also one of those things too. I love the internet because it allows for niches, all sorts of niches. And you really don't need 1 million, 10 million, 100 million people. You don't need that many. You need like a couple hundred people who just like dig what you do. And that can be a thing. You know, I don't know. I know you guys have like, you ideally would love to play this live, but realistically, the logistics of that would like take a little bit more coordination, rehearsals and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, we don't need to just crush ourselves touring and constantly writing and like finding jobs that will accommodate for all of those things. To me, this is all the fun parts about having a band or releasing music or doing anything creative is like, you know, I don't have to do the very, very hard parts. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think once we're asked to play shows, then we'll go do that, and we can figure it out. But right now, our focus is just getting off the ground, and and finding that niche market, like you were saying, because it's out there, you know, and really, even though we're 4 years in, we're right at the start of it because we only just started putting the music out, you know.
Yeah.
So we're we're not getting too high of expectations, and we're just grinding at this point, and that's totally okay. And like I said, at this point, we know what we're doing, and it's a well-oiled machine, and we just take it day by day, and if we find that audience at some point, then we'll hopefully be asked to play shows, and then we'll make it happen from there, because we can. I know we can do it, and we have good musician friends who will help us to play live if we need it, you know. So
yeah,
someday, yeah.
Yeah, it really is like the cheat code. You can do all this stuff on your own time without really disrupting or fucking up your life. Like when you really think about it, touring 9 months out of the year, like that's what most bands have to do to like churn a profit off touring. And they're not making very few of them are making money on the music. Again, another reason to kind of do it all yourself, because then you at least retain all the ownership. If something does come of it, you're not already being, siphoned off. But
I think if we did 9 months on the road together, we would break up because I snore so fucking loud. And it's just like, it's unacceptable.
Yeah, my man has sleep apnea for sure.
Even like not a rigorous one. Let's say 3 months. 3 months every year, and then probably at least 3 months of like writing, recording, putting out a new record. It's hard. That's the hardest part. For me, it's like I only want to do that if I'm being paid for it. Like I can't afford it. I can't afford to rent a rehearsal space and fly people in. If somebody was paying for it, yeah, sure, why the fuck not?
Right.
But again, like that's the benefit of the internet, and that's the benefit of having access to as many people as you do, and the niche. Once you find the niche, like it always whenever I would work live events, it would always blow my mind at how many not major sponsorship festivals there are all over the country. And if you like really look into it, any subgenre of music, there's like a couple 1,000-person music festival somewhere at some point in the year. Yep. And those places will legitimately pay bands to come out and play. And I don't know. It was that was the moment where I was like, man, why would I? So you're telling me? I mean, yes, touring and opening for bigger bands on big shows consistently, yes, that does a lot for your reputation. But when you're just starting out like this, and like you said, you're 4 years in, and you're just starting now because you're just putting the content out.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a question that you have to ask yourself, and it's one of those questions that kind of gives you goosebumps, right? I think even you said this on our call a few months ago that like honestly, like playing music live kind of sucks. And we've done this before.
I'm such a contrarian.
Well, but I mean, but it led to a bigger question, which is, like I have a full-time job. I have other interests and hobbies outside of this band. I've got a lot of shit going on, but I still want to be a part of this. So like I carve time out of my day to make sure that I do this kind of thing, because it's important to me, and it's important, and everybody that's close to me and around me knows that it's important. People that don't even like listen, like people that I'm friends with that don't even listen to this kind of music, they'll ask me like, how's the band going? I'm like, just posting every day, man. Like that's what the fuck we're doing right now, and hoping that something breaks in our way. But like, not to say that I'm totally against playing live, but playing live for us looks, I mean, typically what do? You start out playing locally. You play like maybe once a week. If you're lucky enough, you get asked to go on, like be the opener band at some festival like you were mentioning. And like there's this progression that has classically been the way that you do it. And when I think about that kind of thing, it's like, fuck, like do any of, not only me, but does Daniel have time to do this? Does he have time to come up from Florida? Does Ashton have time to do this? Because we're all like, the name Taskkill is the origin of it is that we're all IT nerds. Like we all work in fucking IT, right?
Right.
And like that's a full-time salaried position for all three of us. And yes, I'm very fortunate and lucky enough to work remote, which affords me a lot of time to work on some of this stuff when I've got some downtime. But like to just like sever that and be like, hey, I gotta go for like a month because I'm going on some East Coast tour. Like, God, that would be great, right? But like, is it realistic? I don't know. But the internet affords me and Ashton and Daniel the opportunity to do this where we wouldn't have a chance to do it otherwise.
Yeah.
So there's that silver lining that's there.
Yeah, I mean, and let me also just clarify something. I don't hate playing live. All right.
Well, I fucking do. I'll say it.
I love playing live, and when you're in a well-rehearsed band at a good show where people are in the audience, that is a cool, unmatchable energy. It's a very distinct kind of cool feeling.
You're very correct about that. There's no other drug like it. I mean, like when it hits, it's there's nothing like it.
It's the best.
Yes,
it is the best. But it's the hardest.
Yes.
It's the most logistically complicated. It's the most chance complicated. And it's like, to some extent, manual labor.
Yeah.
Like you don't have roadies. You're loading all that shit in a van and driving it down and unloading it on the stage and setting it all up, hoping somebody doesn't spill a beer on it. Yeah. Hoping you put on a good show, hoping you make enough money to cover the gas back to home to unload the train. It's just hard. It's hard. It's the hardest part. And it is, unless there's funding, it's very expensive. So I don't know. To me, like this, again, learn how to do this shit in your apartment, in your underwear, and just do it. Just continue doing it and improving and refining and improving. And if at some point in the future it justifies, creating it live, or someone's like, hey, we love this band, come play this show.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just makes sense. Just makes sense.
Before I moved to Florida, I still have my...
Oh, you're cutting out.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Cool. Before I moved to Florida, I was... And I'm still playing with Dave for one of these nights. We're just doing the same thing we're doing, just recording songs now and not doing shows. But before I moved, we were playing kind of frequently. And every time he booked a show, I did kind of feel dread because I knew everything that goes into it. And I would feel that all the way up until I'm at the venue and then have my drums set up and everything. But then once we play, like I would always have a really great time. And then I'm going home, like, so glad that we did it, like, wherever we played. And also just the experiences too, because sometimes the venues are awesome and the people working the venues are
it's
awesome.
Always an experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, it just amazing turnout for no reason, you know. We'll play 2 crappy shows and then have one great one, you know, and that you know, that does make you feel great. Like you do leave like, okay, that was worth everything, you know. But yeah, it's not as easy as just recording at home though, you know. And
it was different when you had to go to a studio and like pay a bajillion dollars. That was different. But it's not like that. It hasn't been like that for 20 years now. So, and there's so many people who are like, you know, has to be gear, has to be like a major engineer in a big studio. And it's like, dude, there's records that are winning awards that are mixed on a fucking laptop. 100%.
I mean, shit, there was a song off of Kendrick Lamar's album, Damn, that won a Grammy that was produced on an iPad. So, I mean, it just...
We're there. Okay.
It's fine. You know?
It sounds, honestly, it sounds better. Okay. That's a very, very hated opinion, but digital now sounds better, and it's only going to get to sound better and cleaner and more refined. If you go back and listen to recordings from back in the day, they sound like ass.
Yep.
They sound like ass. They're super noisy. It's just the limitations of the medium, and it was the limitations of the technology.
Okay,
But,
I have to ask this then, because yesterday I was listening to the local college radio here, and there was a guy saying that he thinks stereo is a gimmick and that mono is like the way to go, and he's playing all this classic stuff, and I don't think I could disagree more. So I just wanted to ask what you guys thought on that. So he thinks everything should be mono, and stereo is just released as a gimmick to, like,
I mean,
sell more
it is a
records.
gimmick, but you know.
I mean, there's got to be a situation where mono is useful, right? There's got to be one.
Sure.
Well, there's tons. I mean, all your low end, all your kicks are mono right down the middle, but all of the stereo spectrum lends itself to that width, right? And
it creates a sound stage like that.
But panning is all volume. It's just like what's louder on the left or what's louder on the right. I mean, it's not a gimmick. It's just the same thing that you're doing when you're equalizing or compressing something. It's just you're making something loud over here, or you know, or you're bringing a snare up, or you're affecting a transient, or what. It doesn't matter. Like, I mean, it's not that it's a gimmick. It's just another way to make something louder or softer. So
can we call our next track "Affecting a Transient"?
Affecting a transient, yeah, maybe so. I'm down, but no, I mean, I don't know. There's to James's point about what things were like 20 years ago and what they're at now. Most, I think, a lot. I know, like especially in like the electronic music space, which I'm a really big fan of. A lot of it is just fucking around and just twisting knobs until you get something that sounds like kind of cool, and then running with it, or making a melody or a bass or a mid bass or whatever, right? I think that because that people have access to incredible synthesizers that are in the box nowadays, you have access to, you know, like the Fab Filter suite can be had pretty cheaply. You have access to all of this technology. So in a world of infinite sounds that you can make, then the choice becomes what you don't include, right? So you're essentially, you know, every artist is sitting in front of that block of marble like Michelangelo did, and like, what do I have to do to whittle away to get it to be something that, you know, is art, right? And thankfully I have Daniel and Ashton to start that process, and then we all just sort of contribute in our own little ways. But the trick is that we can do this without being in the same room with each other. And I don't know, I guess as far as like the gimmick goes, like, well, what's not a fucking gimmick? You know, like the biggest song of the summer was the Sabrina Carpenter song, and come to find out that was just a fucking, it was a couple of splice loops. And that's okay, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say. Like, stereo is a gimmick. We don't need stereo to hear sound. And,
sure.
And any record that isn't mixed with any serious phase issues, if you folded it down to mono, you could still hear it. It's just stereoscopic gives you a little more flexibility to a bigger image to kind of play with. But, you know, I don't agree with that. I'm the opposite. I'm like, man, let's take it Dolby Atmos. Let's take everything. Everything should be Dolby Atmos.
When can we start mixing in 13.1 on?
Well, we're getting close. We're getting close. And like, this is like, I don't know if you guys have ever experimented with binaural recordings or whatever, but like, there's a bunch of really accessible, crazy shit like that. Dolby Atmos is in Pro Tools. If you buy Pro Tools, it's just included in Pro Tools, and you can mix in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't be mixing it unless you had all the speakers set up, but you could get like a simulated thing. I'm more of that mindset. If we can do it with technology, why wouldn't we? But that is really funny. And people, especially like the old school people with analog gear, they'll fight you. They'll fight you if you're like, I prefer digital. And back in the 90s, yeah, the Pro Tools probably sounded like ass. The plugins probably sounded like ass. But this shit's cleaner now. It's just cleaner. Every piece of analog gear has some kind of noise floor or electrical sound that is just included with it. The funk that people want to keep. And for certain elements, I'm not saying don't do that, but I don't think that every piece of audio needs to pass through some like expensive analog chain that somebody's charging me an insane amount of money to run through.
I couldn't agree more. I think that a lot of these like analog heads that will fight you when you say that digital is better or the superior medium are, I think a lot of people are suffering from like sunk cost fallacy, you know, like where I purchased I'm
so invested, I have to double down.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I bought this $3,500 fucking saturator and I'm going to use it.
Better use it. Yeah.
Yeah. Or what's even worse than that is, you know, then you have these analog heads that like you'll notice like on Reverb, you know, if you ever spend some time on that website, people are constantly trading and selling. I'm not using this EQ anymore. You know, I got to sell it or whatever to get something different. And it's like this never ending chase for this sound. But to what you were saying earlier, God, doesn't it lock you into the same thing? Like once you like, I finally got my flow figured out. Like, well, okay, then where is your opportunity to like experiment? You know, like where is your opportunity to like change your sound and stuff like that? So the same is also true of modular. I will say that as well. If you ever get into any kind of modular synthesis, it is fucking ridiculous how much money you are going to spend on that. When things like VCV Rack exist, where you can just do it inside of the DAW.
Right.
And to me, it's just like, man, I'm interested in, and this is coming from a vocalist that's been in a band that has taken 4 years to release music, but I'm interested in efficiency in all things that we do, right? The fact that we have a Google Drive where all of our shit is located and we can share files and we can get that instant feedback, right? The longest that I have to wait to give feedback on a mix that Daniel submits to me, and then, you know, I tell him to change a couple of things or knock down a certain frequency that I'm hearing a lot, and then I can master it, re-upload it, and then he's like, yep, that sounds good. Or actually, I figured out something in the like. It doesn't matter that we're states apart. All of this can happen instantly. And when you're talking about analog gear, like, well, how many days do I have to wait if I ask an engineer to redo something because he cranked the fucking saturation on my guitars or something, like, and it's clashing, right? So that is all to say, like, I think that especially in the day and age of like AI and that existing, like, why are you not taking advantage of every tool that's possible to you to make the thing that you're most proud of? I'm not saying use AI to generate your songs or anything like that, because I think that's bullshit. But we have access to so much technology, and you have the choice to make it sound like whatever you want it to sound like. So leverage that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, let's play this fucking song.
Sure.
Let's play this song. Well, we're taking a little, here, let me pull this up. Yep, there we go. And then let me pull these two things up, make sure we're getting it. All right, folks. This is Choke by Taskkill. Hell yeah, Choke by Taskkill, everybody. All right, I'm gonna quickly flash these, but I will include all these links in the description. Here's a YouTube. That was Spotify. This is Amazon Music, Bandcamp. But again, all these links will be in the description. And if there's any others you guys would like for me to add, just email them to me. But
Sure. I think our biggest ones are like Instagram and TikTok right now, and especially and YouTube as well.
yeah, killer.
But yeah, we'll email those too for sure.
The real
Killer.
Taskkill on everything.
Yep.
Oh, that makes it easy. Love that. You really were able to claim them all. Wow. That's a good... When you start a band and you can claim the same social handle on all social medias, that's a fucking good sign there.
That's a win. It's a fucking win.
That is a real time saver. So again, like what... Now that you guys kind of have this flow down, you've released a couple songs... What are the areas that you're most excited for, I guess? Like in terms of where you're going to take this. I also want to say this really quick. It reminds me in the best way of Fear Factory. And some people shit on Fear Factory, but I fucking love Fear Factory. I will listen to Fear Factory any fucking day.
Yeah. I appreciate that. That's a big compliment. I will tell you that I think one of my favorite things about this band, and Daniel and Ashton have also had this experience as well, which is when we show somebody a track, everybody will give you a different, like, oh, it sounds like this, right? And I like those kinds of comparisons. I know a lot of people like, you know, they want to be their own like special individual, you know, snowflake or whatever, and that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But I like the fact that we wear our influences on our sleeves, and I think that sets a good foundation for what we can achieve in the future. Like, I mean, right now we're writing songs, we're releasing them, yes, and they remind you of, you know, there's a part in there that you heard that's like, oh, that sounds like a Deftones song, or, you know,
yeah, a little bit definitely some Deftones.
Yeah,
in there,
somebody told me Dillinger Escape Plan, which was like, wow, thank you.
Yeah,
you know,
okay,
yeah. You know, I think that my favorite part about this band is just seeing. When Daniel submits a riff, I'll listen to it. That riff goes over to Ashton. Ashton writes for it. By the time I get my hands on it, and then Daniel goes through another round of like post-production stuff, like adding synths and all the ear candy and all of that kind of thing. Like it doesn't sound like what the original riff sounds like at all. Like, I mean, maybe there have been changes that have made in between there. Like, it's like your garden example earlier. You're just planting a seed and seeing what happens when it blooms. And that's to me the most exciting part about it, is that it doesn't sound the same as it started out, and it's always a fun surprise.
Well, and you the other important thing is you guys have all managed your expectations.
Yeah.
And like when you have no expectations, everything's amazing.
Yeah.
When you have no expectation of it being a certain way, whatever you come up with is infinitely cooler than if you had a fucking expectation about it.
Well, I've been playing music with Ashton since the beginning. I mean, we met as kids and we learned how to play our instruments together. And but like to this day, my favorite part, and especially in this project, but my favorite part of playing with Ashton is he never writes what I'm expecting. Like what I'm hearing in my head is never what he plays, and it's not even close. Like, and so every time he sends over the drums, I'm just like, oh, okay, this is the direction we're going. Like it's not what I was thinking, but it's better. Like it's always better though. And like especially with like the end of that song, like the tom beat with the random cymbal hits going on here and there, like it's so pretty, and just it sets a tone that I didn't quite hear until I heard Ashton play that, you know. And But it's that whole no rules thing. It's just
to be fair. I mean, when you sent me the end of that song, I was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to play to this?" So I just ripped off Herb from Primus. Not to bring them up again, but yeah,
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. There's another fucking underrated band, Primus. You know, especially like, dude, it's crazy to think that Primus was a very popular band. At one time, they came out making the weirdest fucking possible music, and they were successful, dude. They were all over
Isn't
TV.
that crazy?
They were making like a lot of money to. I mean, I'm sure they get paid a fair amount of money to play the festivals and shit that they get asked to. So,
Yeah.
Here's a question for each of you guys: if your music was a movie, what would it be?
I got it. You ever seen that Scorsese film, The King of Comedy?
Love that.
Okay, that's my answer.
Love that.
I have not seen that, and I'm not familiar with Fear Factory either, so I'm going to be looking that up after this.
Oh, dude, yeah, you have to. Like, Fear Factory is a fucking staple, man.
Definitely familiar with the name. I've heard of them, but
What was the name of their album that I couldn't put down? Hold on, I have to look it up now.
It was Digimortal for me.
It was fucking
Totally,
Digimortal.
yeah.
That's the one. Yes,
That was like middle school and high school. That was like
Linchpin.
yeah.
right?
Oh, of course. Yeah,
dude.
that was the big single off of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. Soul Hacker. I'm just looking at the Spotify top 5, but I'm I listen to these fucking songs, you know?
Yeah, no, dude, Fear Factory fucking rules.
Yep, absolutely.
Isn't the Fear Factory drummer responsible for the tone of modern metal drums on bass drum? Like, his fucking clicky ass bass drum. I think what he does is he tapes quarters onto the bass drum and then uses wooden beaters, and that's how he got that fucking sound. It's crazy.
Really?
Hoagland?
Yeah.
Is that his name? Hoagland? I'm looking it up right now.
just as a way to cut through the mix,
Oh no, I think it's maybe. Yeah, no. He not only does his drumming influence a whole, definitely at least in a generation of people, because they've been making music for a long time. But
Herrera, right? Raymond Herrera.
yeah. Here, wait.
Yeah, that's
Where's the list? Yeah, Raymond Herrera, and then I guess Mike Heller now. But he would have been the drummer for Digimortal.
Yeah.
It's 2001.
Dude, this album's so fucking good.
Yeah, it's a great record.
You know what's
but
crazy?
they're elements. There's elements of new metal that are cycling back. Like Limp Bizkit right now is on tour. And they're making money.
That's exactly what I wanted to talk about, is this resurgence of new metal, and high school me couldn't be happier, I still listen to the first Slipknot album. That is still in my rotation. They caught lightning in a bottle with that album. It is a perfect metal album. And I get the drums for Sick like you would just be singing a melody, but the drums for that album, I get them stuck in my head. That's the only thing that I hear was Joey Jordison on that album.
Yeah.
Dude, I spent hours talking about this new metal revival, and
it's every 30 years, and this is this is a trackable thing. Most trends like this, fashion will be very similar, but it's 30 years, and it's 2024. This is the music of the early 2000s. So here in the next 5-10 years, that will kind of be a wave of shit. And I love it. I love to see that happening. I mean, and I'm the same way. Any of the music that I create is the amalgamation of the bands that I was listening to.
Yes, sir.
That influenced me to play and learn. And I don't know. I'm really happy to see it cycling back. And I just remember getting so much shit for it. Being a Hot Topic kid, you know what I mean? And now, I'm just happy to see that that's an acceptable, a kid can be that way, and they're not going to get made fun of at school. They're not even the most weird person at their school.
That's right. I saw a meme on Twitter the other day that was, a kid with he had eyeliner on, the white belt, the hair swooping over his eyes, and I think it said we used to be a culture or something like that.
That's incredible.
Dude, so true.
That is incredible.
We used to be that way. So never forget what they took away from us. That's important.
Well, and again, I'm happy to see that it lives on. That's the power. That's the power of music. That's the power of good art. I mean, Slipknot for sure. I would say both of those records too, kind of influence, or not necessarily Digimortal from Fear Factory, but Fear Factory as a band definitely has influence. Slipknot is undeniable. I don't think you'll find a metal band playing now that doesn't worship in some way Self-Titled or Iowa. Like those are like,
Yes.
it's like standard. If you have not read those, you're not doing it right.
Yes, I agree. I mean, the first time I heard the Heretic Anthem, I was like, dude, they did what? You know, like,
Yeah.
it was just, I think the new production on that album, like coming off the self-titled that I'd worn out by that
even the
point.
art, like it was like
Yeah.
that iridescent silver from like the super dark, like red and black shit from the first record. I don't know, like stylistically, in my opinion, Slipknot kind of is the best representation of that era. They're like the most extreme. There's no reason why they should still like there's no reason why they should have been as big of a success as they were, but
Sure.
they are.
I'll talk hours about Slipknot at you. And in fact, I actually think now looking back, like I think that it was like seeing videos and like drum cams of their new drummer, was his name Eloy, I think.
The
like
Sepultura guy, right?
Dude, I think that they made a very solid business decision by bringing that guy in the band. And there's not a motherfucker right now that hits the drums as hard as he does.
Yeah.
He just hits the shit out of them. And the crazy thing is I've never seen Slipknot live, and it's like, it pisses me off that I haven't done it. Yeah. I've never seen them live, and that makes me so mad because they're one of my favorite bands, but every time they've been around, I've been like doing something else, but I don't know.
On a crazy show.
Yeah, I'm really excited the first time I get to see them. So, anyways,
dude, this is hilarious. When I was in middle school, I lived in Nebraska, and Nebraska's right next to Iowa.
yep.
So, like the club that my band would play at, the first iteration of Slipknot with a different lead singer, they played there.
No shit.
Because there's just nothing. I mean, you guys know, coming from Oklahoma, you understand. Like, we had one venue that would do all ages shit, and any show that we could go to, fortunately, would come there because there was nowhere else to stop. they're driving from Chicago to Denver, and they need a stop somewhere in between, and we just lucked out. That was like the venue.
So I have a funny story about that. The guy that lives 2 doors down from me is the guy that started. There's a festival in Oklahoma that happens. It used to happen on Memorial Day weekend, but it's called Rocklahoma, and Slipknot plays there often.
Hell yeah!
And the reason why that they play there is the guy that started that festival is like my next door neighbor, super cool dude. But he used to own the club off of I-240 where Slipknot, the first time Slipknot came to Oklahoma, there was a bunch of Christians outside like protesting, like, we don't want this devil music. And like they had like the KFOR, like the news channel choppers like flying over his club. Like the fire marshals got
Great
brought
press.
down.
Great press.
He was like, dude, it was the craziest night. He's like, I made a shit ton of money, and super cool guy. But he's like, he tells me all kinds of stories about like, his endeavors as a metal club owner, and it's pretty interesting to hear this guy talk about it. So
the Midwest, it didn't surprise me that Slipknot came from Iowa, because the Midwest is like, there was nothing out there, and it was such a strange time. Like, that was, I don't know, especially in the Midwest, that was like the dominant culture. I saw more kids looking like that than I saw looking like, I don't know, they're listening to Britney Spears or Spice Girls.
I mean, it was like half and half at my school. Like, you had half like the new metal kids, you had like definitely like the NSYNC Backstreet Boys kids, and like me, I was like, I come from like kind of a lower middle class family where my dad was a teacher, so I just like I didn't have the money to dress cool like that, so I was just whatever's on sale is what I wore to school. But like, it was so funny just to see like this, like almost like kind of like this dichotomy of just different cultures going to school, but also like I guess I was lucky. I came from a school where we were all sort of in it together, so we all partied together.
That's Midwest.
Yeah,
that's Midwest
maybe that's the case, but I definitely get down with some like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, and get in my car and drive away listening to like Slipknot and Korn and the Deftones, and it was all good.
So what are your guys' like guilty pleasures? And I mean, it can even be from back then. I was the same way. Like, I would have my preferences, but I would kind of generally be willing to listen to just about anything except for like modern country music. That's kind of where I drew the line. But what are your guys' guilty pleasures that may have influenced the music that you make now?
311.
Midwest. That's also some. I was from Nebraska, so that was also required listening for me. So
I got my top 5 or whatever from Spotify, and I think 3 of the 5 songs were The Weeknd.
Awesome.
I think for me, it is it's pop music. Like I could talk a lot about pop music. I think Art Angels by Grimes is one of the best albums ever made. I think that Remy Wolf is a powerhouse vocally right now. I've been really, actually, just over the past couple of weeks, I've been really diving into a group called Magdalena Bay. I also have to give a shout out to one of the best duo acts to ever do it, Purity Ring. It's the only concert I've ever cried at. It just powerful shit. I think that you can do a lot with. I think that there's still a whole lot of unexplored space in the pop realm, and in fact, I think that my instincts for pop music have also helped me write vocal melodies and hooks and stuff like that. I study that shit more than anything. I study pop music because pop is also shorthand for popular. So like what makes a song tick that blows up on Instagram? Like I'm just constantly thinking about that kind of shit. So yeah, pop music for me is my answer. It is the thing that I go to university for often.
Yeah, it very much is like going to school, and that's why I've always felt like it was important to at least know different kinds of music.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the thing you listen to all the time, but at least know it's out there, and at least understand the subtleties that make one thing this genre and another thing this genre.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I feel like it's just super important. And I also feel that most people, even the people that we would look up to musically, those are all people who listen. Like the things that we would think are inspirations actually aren't. And it's like some other completely unrelated shit. You're like, I didn't realize you'd listen to that.
John Carroll, the drummer from the Sawtooth Grin and formerly from the Number 12 Looks Like You, is a massive Stevie Wonder fan. You know, like I was chatting with him after a show one time. Super nice guy, by the way. And yeah, he was like, you guys recognize this song? And we're all like, you know, like young kids, like, no, what is it? It's like, it's Superstition by Stevie Wonder. Goddamn you kids, you know, and like, it's, you know, so put me on to Stevie Wonder for sure. So yeah, you're right. Kurt Ballou from Converge said, listening to punk music makes me a better country guitarist. Listening to country music makes me a better metal guitarist. And he's like, it's all circular. And I'll never forget that quote by him. And it's so in my mind, there's almost no such thing as a guilty pleasure, because there's in music, there's always something to learn from an artist or a song. So,
you know, I'm glad that you said that, because when you first said that, I thought 311, because everybody dogs on them so hard. But then I thought of Lawrence Brown, who's an old trombone player for Duke Ellington, and I've probably listened to this fucking top hits album from him like 500 times. It's just like it hits for me. Like all the songs on it are great, and it's just jazz trombone, and it's basically the sounds you would make to make fun of jazz music. Wah, 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 wah. It just sounds like that, but it's beautiful. I love it. So there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure, not anymore. No, not when you're 36.
Yeah, you just give up all hope. You know, it's like fuck it entirely. Okay, here's this is a random one. I don't know how this is going to play out. If your music was a stand-up comedian, who would it be?
Doug Stanhope.
that's a good one.
I like that answer too. Yeah.
Go ahead. What do you think? I was telling Daniel, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying I like that answer too.
You goes Doug Stanhope. I guess my answer is I would really hope that it was Bill Burr, but I know in my soul of souls that it's Nimesh Patel. And if you've never listened to him, he's one of the funniest sons of bitches on the planet right now. He's just an incredible comedian.
I haven't. No,
I've seen him live
out.
twice, and I've crying laughing. But yeah, I definitely recommend Nimesh Patel. Also, somebody that got real famous off of TikTok and blew up because of that. But I like Bill Burr, I like Nimesh Patel. I've seen Hannibal Buress live a couple of times. He is also just incredible.
Have you seen Hannibal's music gig that he's touring with right now? He's not doing comedy; he's doing music.
Like most of his comedy show, the last time I saw him was him talking about. He's like, man, I just get into the studio and I just start playing. I love that shit, making a beat and all this. And he's like, I see what y'all like about it, And I was like, yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I there definitely has to be an element of chaos in all of those comedians.
Yes.
Are the chaos card. For me, when I listen to things, I don't really care what it is. I just want it to surprise me. And when it surprises, like, that's the only thing where I can get my fill. There's so much formulaically regurgitated shit in music. When it's predictable or I know where it's going, it just doesn't do it for me. And I don't know what, tangible quality it would qualify as, but I don't know. That's why I dig your guys' music, because it's going to take me where it's going to take me. And it's not going to be where I expect, but that's the whole point.
That's, I think, one of the best compliments we've ever received.
I appreciate that. Dude.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now, in terms of like the video and social stuff, like what is the process there? Because you guys are actually really good about not only having a bunch to post, but a variety of things. What for people that weren't necessarily inclined towards social media, how did you get so organized about it?
Ashton, go for it, bud.
Daniel started off with the idea, like Penrod was mentioning earlier. We need to have basically 45 days per track. Isn't it 45? I don't remember.
Yeah.
And we need to have a plan for every day of the week, and we just fucking did it. Pulled out an Excel sheet and did some brainstorming. Each of us can do a playthrough, or what I like to call for Penrod is karaoke time, and have a video for it, and we can chop up that video into some segments, and then we've got half the time taken out for that. And I feel like, and Penrod is basically responsible for pointing this out, because I'm socially trying to find a word that's nice. I'm inept, I feel, and so I kind of lean on Penrod a little bit to do the talking sometimes, because of the brain stuffs, and he thought it was really important to just like not be prepared weekly with a video and have an authentic engagement experience. I guess that's what you do on social media. That's the whole fucking point. And I think it's really important to have both sides, basically. You get your not necessarily music videos, but maybe things like playthroughs and stuff like that. Get as much of that as prepped as you can ahead of time, and it makes it easy to do one engagement post per week, where if you're replying to somebody's comment, or you're just like calling out another band for an awesome release, or whatever the fuck you want to do, peppering it in, and then not taking yourself seriously and blurring your faces online, so if people do watch it, they don't know who you
perfect.
are.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Ashton has kind of hit the nail on the head there. I fucking hated Daniel when he was like, dude, we need like 30 to 45 days. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, I don't want to do that shit. And I think this is the first time that I've ever actually outwardly said that to you. So if this is your first time hearing it, then you take that, motherfucker. But I will say this. In this band, my role is to do kind of what is needed as quickly as possible. Haven't always been the best at being able to do things on time. But as far as our social media goes, I think the rule was in my head, or something that I thought about a lot, was this idea that if you made a stupid post, like not like low quality, but like if you made like kind of like a lowbrow humor post, like for example, I came up with this, like how I warm up for vocals, and then I took a video of me like pretending that I was putting my hand on like a burning red hot stove, and then it cut to me like doing a scream in our first single, and like that was just like, it's kind of like low hanging fruit. But it was also silly. And if this band does not take what we do seriously, like we're serious about like what we contribute to the band, but like our outward external presence online is like we're just a bunch of fucking goofballs, which is also true. So
authentic.
Yeah, we are. And like I embrace that kind of shit because like I would shoot myself in the head if I had to do like serious engagement on social media every day. It's just not who I am. All of us like love a good dick and fart joke, and like I mean we want to show that side of ourselves, and like I think that that's important.
And that's why Ashton's collecting screenshots of all of our negative comments.
Right, exactly.
Been getting so far.
Yeah, and that's been like, you know, I love that shit. Like I've even back when we were playing Cuddles, like I would love it if a motherfucker came up to me and was like, "I hate y'all shit." Like, dude, thank you. Like because I want some kind of reaction. I want whether it's to make you laugh or piss you off, but I never wanted that like median. You know, like they're okay. You know, like the band's all right. Like that will make me so mad. I don't know why, but anyways, as far as social media goes, consistency, because we're a band that's starting out and releasing things, and we don't know what we're doing. Like we don't necessarily know what works, and the things that we think that aren't going to work get us 10,000 views on a YouTube short. Just why does that work? You know, like I don't. What the fuck did we do there?
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, humans like have this intrinsic like want to recognize patterns. And so I think that we always want to try to identify like what the pattern is, like what's working, what's not working. But it's so hard on social media because you just don't know really how the algorithm works. So the one thing
every app is different.
That's right.
You know?
So the only thing that we know is to be consistent. And I'm actually surprised. Like we're like 2 months in to posting, and we haven't missed a day that we said that we were going to post. You know, we have been consistent, and it's been good to like come up with a plan like that and stick to it, I guess. But you know, you get your followers that trickle in. Like a lot of my friends follow me, you know, because hey, this is his thing that he's doing now. I got to follow him and all that. But you know, I think that they do that out of, you know, maybe friendship, obligation, duty, or whatever. But like every once in a while, you know, like we'll post something and then they'll like forward it to me on Instagram. Like, dude, you guys are clowns. You know, like you guys are just fucking funny, and that makes me feel good. You know, like I don't care if. I just want that, like, I just want a reaction, I guess. And so, like, Ashton collecting all of the negative comments and posting them like that, that shit makes me so fucking, it's so funny. It's so funny when that happens. So, I don't know. What do you think, Daniel? How would you see the social media thing?
I'm clueless with all of it, and I think what's working for us is, like Ashton was saying, we each put together our own playthrough and edit that, and that gives us a lot of material to chop up just with that we can use for promotions and kind of getting people's attention. But I'm really loving the funny stuff Ashton's doing. That is just, and you know, I've tried to pitch in on that a little bit, but really Ashton's the go-to guy for all things funny. So I like the, I don't know, there's no point, none of it's real. Like social media, it's a joke. Like, so you take yourself seriously on it. I mean, you're taking something that's not real seriously, and it's just, it's a place for people to either go and make jokes or go and complain, you know, and it's just like, and so I think our approach is like, let's just have a good time with it. We're going to get hate either way. So,
and hate is great. Hate is great. Number one, because spite is a great motivator. And number two, because it means you're doing something. You know, a reaction is better than no reaction. And especially when it comes to social media, the people who hate don't realize they're doing you a favor by engaging with your content.
They just don't get it. And it's so fucking funny every time. You know, like it's like you see like AI accounts that pop up on Instagram, and it's clear as day that they're using AI to generate some kind of picture or video or movie, and then everybody in the comments is like, this is AI trash garbage. Well, that's why it's showing up on your fucking feed, you idiot, is because you're commenting. It's like, I mean, if you really want to get rid of this shit, don't look at it. Just skip it. But like people can't help themselves. Like I gotta fucking let this guy.
Gotta voice my opinion.
I gotta let him. I gotta put it out there. You know, it's like you guys are so dumb. But anyways, no, it's to me, like Daniel was saying, it's not real. It more than anything, social media is a thing to be gamed, and it is nothing but a game to me.
Absolutely, it's just it's like any other app.
Yes.
Game app that you download on your phone to kill time. That's all it is. And the more serious you take it, the less serious I can take you. You know, that's how, and that's how I've always felt about it, even since the beginning. And I'm not opposed to it. I think it's great. I think, again, because of the ability to assemble a niche. And there's the other thing too, is like if once you abandon the idea that I need to appeal to the masses, it just becomes like, I don't care. I'm going to post what I want, what I think is funny, what I think is relevant. And the people who also appreciate that's the niche. That's how that gets developed, you know?
So I want to hit on something that you brought up on our call, which I if I haven't said it already, I'm going to say it, like was one of the most like influential hour-long discussions for somebody that I had never met before and was just spitting game at me the entire time. I learned so much on our call, so thank you for that. But
my pleasure.
One thing that you brought up was what I have told a lot of other people now too. I've said it like maybe 20 other times to other folks. And I refer to it now as the Manhattan problem. There's 4 million people on Manhattan Island?
Yeah, between 4 and 6.
4 and 6? Okay. So let's cut the difference and say there's 5 million people on Manhattan Island. And that means out of the out of the 10,000 people that hear your shit, 100 people are going to like it. And they're going to follow you, right? So that means you just gained, if you reached that many people, if you reach 10,000 people, you're going to get 100 people that fuck with what you're doing, which means maybe 1 or 2 out of those 100 people are going to be super fans.
Yeah.
And those super fans are going to like, share, comment on your shit, love it, this, that, and the other.
Want your success.
Want your success. That's right. So not only is that true in Manhattan, and this is this was the aha moment when you told me this. It's not only true in Manhattan, it's true in Dallas, it's true in LA, it's true in Miami, it's true in Chicago, it's true in Singapore, it's true in Melbourne, it's true anywhere where there's internet access. But the trick is that you have to figure out a way to reach those people, to let them have the agency and autonomy to make the decision on whether or not they fuck with your shit. And if they do, you get a follow. It's as simple as that. And not only do you get a follow, you get those people in Germany or in Ohio that buy your cassette tapes.
Dude, those are the best.
That's you those know every single time, you know? Yeah, you might as well have their name and address like already bundled up, ready to go, because you know that they're going to buy your stuff. Now, we haven't done merch or anything like that, but like when I start thinking about social media like that, and it doesn't scare me as much. You know what I mean? Because then it's just a big numbers
it's also
game.
It's okay. Like social media has become this super impersonal, and by impersonal I mean like not social. It's this very weird portal that we all step into, and we all have like these facades of how we present ourselves on social media, how we want other people to perceive what we're doing. It's social though. It's supposed to be social. Every band that I have ever released anything with, I've mailed that shit myself. Any order I got from anywhere, I fucking wrote the address on the envelope that got mailed out. When Clint and I were like deep in releasing stuff with Modern Grievance, he was handling most of that. But same thing, is he was packing every single, like that to me, like that's the social element of it.
Yeah.
That's at least from the internet's perspective. Yes, there's a person in Germany. We're not going to play in Germany. You know, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But me sending some stickers and a cassette to this person out in Germany, that social media now just became social. That was the purpose of why I was using social media.
True.
Was to find some random fucking person somewhere that would be into this. But again, keep it. It's personal. Like, thank you, dude. Thank you for buying this. Here's some extra shit you didn't buy just because we appreciate it.
It matters so much. Like, if one of my favorite bands is Circle Takes the Square, and they've only released 2 albums. There's like 3 and like some EPs and some demos or whatever floating around. But if they were to release, hey, Circle Takes the Square, this band that hasn't played together in years and years and years, are going to release a new hoodie. I'm buying a hoodie, and every time I buy a hoodie, I get a thank you from Kathleen, from their bassist, like on the order slip. And I'm like, dude, that's just so cool. You know, like, that means,
why would I not buy that?
Yes.
Why would I not buy that?
Yes, I support the fuck out of anything and everything that you guys do just because you put that personal touch on it. So, yeah, excellent point, by the way.
Well, you know, when we talk about, like, what's the point of, yes, views, yes, exposure, social media, but, like, so it's social. Mm-hmm. It's supposed, when you, like, I can't tell you how many, like, strange people I found on the internet. You know, I commented something random on their shit just because I thought it was hilarious, and now we follow each other. Like, it's supposed to be social, and I'm like an anti-social social media user. I've just never really been, like, adept at navigating, putting it all out there. You have to find the way that works for you, and remember that it's social. And dude, the other thing is, and this goes for everybody, don't be stingy with your fucking likes. Bottom line is, if you support other people, they're going to support. If they see, this is what's crazy to me about social media, especially Twitter, but any of these social media sites makes it touchable. Like, this is a person that you might not ever be in the same social circle with, but if you're liking their posts and resharing their shit every day, they're going to notice you. They're going to know who you are. They're going to know you by the gateway. But again, that's social. That's using it to be social.
Right.
You know, I don't know. That to me is like the thing that always gets forgotten. And it's easy to get lost in the sauce. And especially, like, that's like at the end of the chain of multiple fucking scenarios where it's getting lost in the sauce. Writing the music, coming up with, like, the concepts of a record, recording it. Each of those things, you get lost in the sauce. Mm-hmm. And social media, to me, is one that you just have to, it should be the easiest to not, the other ones, those are justified. In the creative process, I'm okay with you being, that's justifiable to get lost in the sauce. When it comes to social media, no. I post at these times, here's what I'm posting. I'll spend an hour in the evening engaging with accounts and commenting and liking people's shit. That's it. It's part of this routine that I do, and you know, use it to be social. I don't know. Just don't be stingy with your likes.
Yeah.
Everyone is so fucking stingy with it takes nothing to fucking tap on shit. I don't know.
No, I think you're right about that. And just, if anybody's listening to this that, you know, has friends that are in bands and stuff like that, the CEO of Instagram came out recently and said that one of the key ways that Instagram works is that when you share a reel and it shows up on somebody's page, the first people that see it are obviously your followers. What determines it getting out of follower hell is how much your followers engage and react to it. So there's not really like a 1-for-1 conversion on it, or if there is, I'm unaware of it, or I'm just ignorant to it. But the more that your followers engage with your stuff, the more outreach that it goes outside of people. Like, it will show up in people's timelines, reels, carousels, whatever, that have never followed you, because that's how it's supposed to work, right? So just keep in mind, if you do follow bands, you are doing so much more for them than you think by liking, commenting, sharing any of their shit. It does matter. And, you know, in a band that, you know, the reason you do social media, again, is to be social, but, like, we worked really fucking hard on this music, and we worked really hard on all of this art and the direction that we go in. Like, I mean, yeah, we had a fun time doing it, but there was some work that was involved. So I'm not asking people to, like, make it worth our time, because that's not really what it's about, but, like, recognize that there was a lot of, like, not a lot of infighting, but there was, like, some disagreements about stuff, and, like, we would have to work through that, and it can be stressful. Like, but at the end of the day, we came up with a product that we're pretty goddamn proud of. And as a result of that, we want you guys anybody that listens to our music to, we just want you to recognize that there was a lot of love put into this, and there was a lot of hate put into it as well. I mean, the lyrics are about a pretty dark time in my life, and it's hard to be vulnerable like that on the internet. So that helps, I guess, is all I'm trying to say, is like anytime you engage with somebody, like you were saying, using social media for social purposes, it matters.
Yeah, it's supposed to be social, you know,
is.
and everyone we've gotten. I mean, granted, we do have a strange relationship with it, and we should. And we were kind of the experiment. Social media like this didn't exist before us, so we're still kind of figuring shit out. But
True.
My hatred for it lessened when I started. And dude, it's crazy. Like, it's so crazy how just commenting something on social media leads to conversations and connections. I don't know. Once my wife made that super clear. She's a master at it, and she was like, "It's social. It's supposed to be social. You have to, if you're using it as some kind of thing and think that you can't be social, is social media? It's in the name."
Yeah, I think she's got the good perspective on that too.
She's a master at it.
Yeah,
she's a master at it. So she kind of opened my fucking social media third eye right there.
Pried it open, huh?
Yeah. But I don't know. It's super cool to see what you guys have put together. It's super exciting to actually see somebody talk about something and go through the hard work of completing it and putting it out. And again, doing it all remotely. That's, most of the records that I've been a part of in the past decade have been mostly remote. Like, I might have been in the room with somebody for a short period of time, but we were never all in the same room. I don't know. It's just there's something to be said about coordinating that and setting the timeline and doing all the work to complete it. I don't know. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Well, before we wrap this conversation up, do you guys have any other things that you want to leave the audience with? Any nice sayings or any things to check out? Use this as your soapbox.
Go for it.
I'm sorry we didn't talk about aliens today, but we will next time.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Love
That's
that.
Sweet. I don't know. I'll just get on my. I'm a big gratitude person, and I know that a lot of people out there don't really believe in that kind of thing, and that's okay too. But I am grateful and thankful for the opportunity that I've had, to make music again with two of my favorite people in the world. James, I'm grateful for our conversation that we had. You have no idea how much that informed what this band does, and I took most of what you said to heart, and I almost wish I recorded that conversation so I could go back and listen to it. So thank you.
Yeah, that was a hilarious misstep. We actually were in a recording slot. We could have recorded it, but we just didn't.
Yeah, we should. I mean, that would have been a great standalone podcast on its own, if I'm being honest.
It would have been a crash course. Yeah, because we went over it all for sure.
Yeah, well, maybe we do that anyways, because I think that it's worth talking about, where we bounce the questions and answers off of each other. I'd love that if you are interested in doing something like that.
I'm super into it too. I Clint's kind of been on a tangent too, but it'd be good to loop him in, because he is there's concepts. Okay, so there's another situation. He was always the social media person. Every time we would do something musically, he's the social media person. I'm not. He is a master at that. My shit was recording. That was my role. And even with the label and stuff, he was really the mastermind behind it. But there's just a lot of concepts that he and I refined over literally 15 years of releasing music, and then we found our pattern, we found our routine, and we would just chug through it. We'd write. I would do most of the writing, we'd do most of the recording, and then it would be off to Clint, and then he would have to handle all getting all the social media ready and all the posts, and he would if for Modern Grievance at least, he'll like send me stuff to post and tell me when to post it, and I link all the appropriate things. But he like honestly, you would glean a lot of more useful information off of him, because he like, I can do that for sure on a one band scale. Clint was doing it for all the bands that we were releasing, so
that'd be very interesting.
I don't know. He's and he understands the logistics in the sense too that like he'd be able to tell you like, look at what this band did and look at how aggressively they promoted, and in the cases where bands were playing shows, like look at the shows that they played, and then look at this band that we did a release with that didn't, or that broke up right after, and like you just see how the consistency and kind of assaulting it from a bunch of different angles always pays off. But well, you know, we should loop him on that conversation too, because he's always coming up with interesting ideas. But it's also, you know, he is also a rabid consumer of music and collector of merch and gear. You know, he's one of the most knowledgeable people on metal and hardcore music you know. I don't mean hardcore like the genre. He is, but it's like he's like an encyclopedia of heavy music.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't know. We could go off on a tangent. Bottom line is we should get him on here. I'd be super into that. These are the things that even by having that conversation with you, I just want to empower people. Like sometimes you look at a major task like that and you're like, man, that fucking sucks. But then you have one person that behind you that's like, just do it, dude.
Yeah.
You can do that. That one person saying that one thing to you, that can like make a fucking difference. So that's what I try and do with this show. It's why I wanted to have you guys on, just kind of talk about your process with it too, and you know, hopefully inspire other people to do the same thing. So, you know, I guess I'm grateful to you guys too. Thank you for coming on the show and for sharing the music and an hour and a half of your time talking about your process, and you know, we'll coordinate something hilarious for the next one. So is just going to be singles for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think so.
Love that.
Yeah, just singles and just playing around and having fun. We have so our second track off of our little EP that we've been working on got released today. We've got 3 or 4 more. Daniel, you might be able to help me out with that. Am I missing a song when I say 3?
Yeah, 3 more coming out.
3 more, okay.
Yep.
And
so kind of one a month almost, like one
Love
every
that.
30, 45 days, yeah.
Yeah.
And then probably, you know, start working on some newer stuff and just keep going, man, and just do it. Don't overthink it and do it.
Well, when you've released all the tracks off the EP, we can definitely do come on and we'll just listen to the whole EP.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know. It's just so exciting to see, you know, hearing about you guys talking about doing this and like seeing where it is now. But yeah, this has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you to Taskkill for joining today. I'm going to have all these links in the description, so be sure to check out their stuff and don't be stingy with your likes.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, James. I appreciate you.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. And we'll catch you on the next one. Oh, geez, Ashton disappeared. He took an elevator.
Yeah, he went.
This has been the Totally Legitimate Business Podcast. The end. With your host, James Oliva. Executive producers, Clint G and James Oliva. That's obnoxious. Sound design, mix, and master by James Oliva. Literally no one cares. For more Totally Legitimate Business, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Totally Legitimate Business or add us on TikTok at TLBpod. When will this end? Thank you for listening. Now get back to work. Move it along, buddy.